G'day one, be Asian out here. Today we're going to look at this Lenovo Thinkstation P330 Tiny. Now this is a compact workstation, fits in around about 1 litre volume in size, but don't underestimate this small form because it can still give a good punch, a bit of a surprise punch as well too, from when I was doing the tests there. So I'm going to actually do some performance tests of this computer. We're also going to look at the internals. We'll also look at the temperature and also how loud this computer can get as well. So first off, I'm going to actually go through the specs of this computer, what it can be configured with. But before I get on with it, I'd like to make my thanks to Lenovo Australia to make this review possible. Thank you very much, guys. Now, what this computer can be configured with, for processor-wise, it does house the 9th generation Intel processor. So you can either put in an i5 in there, which runs 6 cores, an i7, which runs 8 cores, and an i9, which runs 8 cores as well. Now, as for RAM-wise, it can be configured up to 64 gigs of RAM. It does have 2 SODIMM slots there for you to actually swap out and in and out, and it's actually quite easy to access. You can see that when I go for the internals there. And as for the hard drive-wise, it can house 2 M.2 slots as well, so you can actually two SSD hard drives. Now it does have also space for one SATA 2.5-inch hard drive, but when you do put that in, you won't be able to actually put a discrete graphics card in there. So you'll see that in the internals as well, and why that does that. Now, for the graphics card wise, it can house a NVIDIA Quadro P620 or a P1000. That's right, you can still put a P1000 in this. That's fantastic there. Now this particular model I do have here in my hands is the P1000 model, so we can actually have a look at the performance of that card there as well. As for accessory wise, as you can see, it doesn't really have a DVD drive, but you can get a DVD drive there. But what that requires you to is to have the VESA mount kit. So you can VESA mount this actual computer to either TV or behind a monitor. So it's actually, or even underneath the desk as well. So that's kind of cool. You do need to buy the VESA mount kit separately there. Let's have a look at the ports at the front. We've got the power button at the front, and then we've got the hard drive status light. Then we've got the microphone jack, a headphone jack, and then we've got USB-C here, which is Gen 1. And then we got a USB 3.1, also Gen 1, and this has a power share, which means it's always on as well. So looking at the back of the computer, starting on the left-hand side, we've got the power port where you plug in the power adapter. We've got the full-size display port. We've got a USB 3.1 Gen 1 port. And then we got a HDMI port. Above that is a port for security lock, so you can actually tie this computer down. And then, of course, over this side here is the exhaust hole for the exhaust fan. And then coming back down here, we've got another USB 3.1 Gen 1 port, and then 2 USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports, RJ45 Ethernet port here, and then there's the optional antenna for the Wi-Fi, because this one has Wi-Fi built into this particular configuration. And again, this particular configuration has the Quadro P1000, so it's actually got the discrete graphics card there, which then houses the 4 mini display ports there. Now you can get the 4 mini display ports without the graphics card in. You do need to opt in for that one there. So let's look at the internals of this Lenovo Thinkstation P330 Tiny. Now, first off, I'd like to say I have gained permission from Lenovo to actually do this teardown. You won't normally do a teardown like this because it is quite a bit of exercise, and it's only if you're doing some upgrades. Now, the upgrades are actually pretty easy to do. This is more for the all the way through to explain some of the configuration this computer can go to. First off, I'd like to advise you, if you're going to do an upgrade to this computer or uncomfortable with computers, please make sure you actually ask Lenovo to do this, or an authorized dealer to actually do the upgrades or repairs job. Now, I have pre-unscrewed a lot of the screws from this computer here to make the video a lot shorter. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Now, first off, to get to remove the case, the top case itself, it's a matter of removing one screw here. So this, the big screw here, and that is that one down here. Now, I have pre-undone it, as of course, so I'll just move it to the right. Now, it's just a matter of, this is the back end of it, and pretty much just push forward here, and that pretty much slides out and then lift up. It's pretty easy there. So I'm just going to move this up here and make things easier. first off, as you can see straight up, we've got the CPU fan here. Actually, it's a system fan that actually takes care of a lot of other cooling of the heatsink all here. Now this is configured with the Nvidia Quadro P1000 right now. So you can see this is a half-size card and it is fit into a riser card right here. So normally to actually get that out, at the moment I'm just going to make that out of the way, so that makes things simpler. Now there are actually 3 screws that hold into this card itself. So at the moment that's these 3 screws here. So there'll be one here and one on and 2 on the side, so one down this side and one down here as well. So you take those screws out and then that would release this riser card as well. Now you've got to do it softly. Now you can see this heatsink is connected to this fan here, so that main heatsink. So first off, before I remove this riser card here, I'm going to have to remove this fan case here, and that's just a matter of a few clips. And I'm just going to spin this around so we can actually see the clips itself. So there's a clip here, and there's also another, it's a half clip, it's not really a full clip, but once you push this in, lift this up, and it's just a matter of trying to remove this one here, which I will do now, so it doesn't actually break that off. So it's just a matter of removing that. Now, as you can see, this cord here is connected to the system board for power. That is the fan power. So it's just a matter of unplugging it, and that will then, and it's just a matter of rising it up. Very easy, as you can see with the fingers, and it's just a matter of unhooking it now. To unhook it, it's just, hopefully you can see this just, and it's just around down here. Unhook, and that will be come off right out there. Pretty easy there. So I'm just going to move the system fan away from here. Now after that, there are actually 3 major screws you need to take this off. So there are one here, and one here. So it's just a matter of unscrewing them. I have pre-undone them already now, and that's for 3 screws. Now after that, you need to take this assembly with this riser card here. Now as you can see with this riser card, while I'm at it, is if you are opted for 2.5-inch SATA hard drive, this card cannot be here. You can only have either the graphics card or a 2.5-inch hard drive here, as you can see. So that's just because of physical space this takes in, but we're actually going to show you where the SATA is connected to. So I'm going to lift it up here. So first off, I'm going to lift this up here. Now, like I said, you won't normally do this. You should actually get this configured with a SATA hard drive already. Now, it's a matter of just pulling this one up and getting the riser card out, which is here. And pretty much it is just a matter of lifting this slowly upwards without trying to pull anything. It's just a matter of, it is a little bit of a job, and pulling up. And then hopefully, normally you should actually, now the riser card's already off there, as you can see. Oh, it's a bit of a fiddly, and I'm not actually doing this though. So I'm just trying to get this thing here, and a matter of trying to remove this, and you will see the thermal paste very soon anyway. So I'm just going to get that part out there. So it's a matter of lifting this up together. So I'll keep those 2 together, and it's a good idea to keep those up together. So I'm just going to move this and flip this around. Straight away you can see the CPU and thermal paste there. I will be putting the thermal paste back on properly when I actually close this off. But as you can see, I'm going to get this thing up here so you can actually see that. We've got the Wi-Fi card here, and there is a SATA connector right there as well. So that's SATA 1. So that's, you will have to get a nice little bracket here to actually put in the 2.5-inch hard drive there. So other things we can see around here, and that's really all you really need this side for. I wouldn't be touching it. You also got the Cmos battery right here. So you do need to actually lift this up to actually get it out there. So if you need to do Cmos problems, that's about it. So it is a tiny board, but it's a really nice form factor, and it's quite amazing what it can do. So I'm going to close this back up again, and we'll look on the other side. So I've got the computer back together again, and we're going to look on the other side of this computer where most of the important and easy upgrades are done. So of course we still need to have the cover off this computer, and now I'm just going to flip the computer around to its other side here, and pretty much you don't need a screwdriver for this to happen, and pretty much you just need to push towards the back of the computer just like this, and you'll see that pop out there, and then just lift this up. Pretty easy. So straight off, we can see from this side here, we got two M.2 slots here for SSD hard drives. One's already been taken off, but you do have the ability to upgrade to a second one in there, which is fantastic. And we've got over this side here 2 SODIMM slots for RAM slots. So again, these are very easy to access, so it's fantastic there. I did test out the internal speakers of the P330 Tiny. When I did my test of maximum volume, it managed to peak at 75.8 decibels. And as for the sound quality, it's pretty average. I don't expect much from it. More than likely, as a user of this computer here, you'll plug in some headset or some speakers properly. I'm going to perform a few tests at the exact same time. Now I'm going to actually test out the temperature of the computer. We'll also see how loud the system fan goes as well as see if there's any CPU throttling and how long it's actually able to maintain its turbo boost for. Now, first off, I'd like to mention that I have an i7-9700T processor. It is a 9th generation Intel one, and it has a base clock speed of 2 GHz and a maximum turbo boost of 4.3 GHz. So I'm just going to minimize that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stress test the CPU and the graphics card, which is a Quadro P1000 I have in here. So I'm going to start the clock off. Before I start the clock off, I'd just like to mention that at the moment the temperature gauge here is on the top end of the computer. It's reading at 34.3 degrees Celsius. And as for the system fan, while it's just idling away, it is reading at about 35 to 34 decibels there. And so I'm going to start the test right now. And I'll start the clock off. Look at the temperature there at the moment. And at the moment we've got a speed of 3.8 gigahertz for the CPU. You can hear the system fan ramping up at 30 seconds marks here. Looking at around about 48 decibels for the system fan when it goes up quite high. I can see the very first dip it had there. And we just hit the first minute mark, and at the moment the CPU speed is at 3.2 gigahertz. And we have a nice little flatlining sort of temperature sitting on the CPUs at around about 75 degrees Celsius. To around about 77 degrees Celsius. As for the top of the computer here, it's reading around about 34.7 degrees Celsius. And my ambient temperature at the moment is about 24 degrees Celsius as well. As for system fan, it is now sitting at about 43 decibels. And now we're actually around about at 3.2 gigahertz. Now the reason why I'm actually measuring the case out here, especially above this exhaust hole here, this is where actually the graphics card is actually sitting, and that's actually the hottest part of it at the moment, and the system fan is blowing out here. So I thought this was going to be the hottest part, but it's actually right up here where the GPU is. That's actually the hottest part. I will put another temperature measurement down there later on while this is actually running, and we'll come back in about the 5-minute mark. Now we're about to approach the 5-minute mark here, and just to let you know that the system fan is, for loudness, you're looking around about the 44 decibel mark. And as for the top of the case here, you're looking at 35.2 degrees Celsius. And it's pretty much 78 degrees Celsius for the CPU, and its clock speed is currently sitting pretty much at 3.2 to 3.3 gigahertz, pretty stable there at the moment. Now putting the thermometer at the back of the computer here, because if you wanted to actually know if that's going to be a different sort of reading, this is pretty much where the other side of the exhaust fan that's found. That's the hottest part here. I can feel here there, and that's currently reading at 43.2 degrees Celsius, and the system fan is still at 42 to 43 decibels there. And currently the CPU is still sitting at 3.2 gigahertz, pretty steady there, with the internal CPU temperature around about 77 to 76 degrees. So we're approaching the 30-minute mark very soon. And I've noticed from the decibel meter for the system fan, it goes between 42 to 44 decibels, and that's pretty consistent there. Now, as for the CPU wise, you'll find it is moving between 3.1 gigahertz and 3.3 gigahertz, and that's steady that way there. So it's about 76 to 78 degrees Celsius for internal CPU's temperature. And as for, I've moved the actual temperature gauge of my thing back to the top end of it, and you will currently reading at 43 degrees Celsius. So I am impressed that it's able to maintain a good speed on the CPU, and also for the system fan at a good sort of workable loudness. And as for the temperature rise, that's pretty good as well too for such a compact form. I definitely like this P330 Tiny. I give it a good thumbs up. The weight of the P330 Tiny is 1.39 kilos, and that's with the discrete graphics of the Quadro P1000 graphics card in there. I did run some benchmarks on the P330 Tiny, and I ran them in the 3D Mark. I used the time spy test on that one there. I also ran on PC Mark 10. I also ran on Cinebench R15 and R20, which you will see, and also in Pass Mark as well, and also did the Crystal Mark for the hard drive. Lenovo created a nice compact and powerful workstation. Definitely a great workstation to have here at home, or definitely in businesses there. Now, if you enjoyed the video or find it informative, give it a like, and if you haven't done already, subscribe to my channel by hitting that subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. I do try to upload a new video every Tuesday. And just remember, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. I'll see you next video.